During their second year, children begin to combine the 50 words they have acquired at the one-word stage into rudimentary two-word sentences. This is known as a two-word or telegraphic stage, so called because in English, two-word utterances lack articles, prepositions, and inflections, making them appear more like telegram messages. A review of children's two-word production across speech communities suggests that they are expressing the same kinds of thoughts and intentions in the same kinds of utterances. At first, the utterances mirror the meanings expressed at the one-word stage. At the one-word stage, two-word utterances are limited in meaning. They are not generally about past or future events and are produced without function words or inflections. After this stage, children's speech seems to develop rather rapidly, with the acquisition of grammatical markers, negative sentence forms, and questions. Actually, as I'm sure many parents, adults will attest, there is no stopping them after a two-word stage. How and where sounds are produced within our vocal tracts determines the acoustic properties of those sounds. Let us identify the body parts that are involved in speech production. There are three major systems for speech production, namely vocal tract, larynx, and subglottal system. There are two classes of speech sounds, namely vowels and consonants, which are produced differently. One of the most common basic systems to classify sounds is by where in the vocal tract they are made, place of articulation, and how they are made, manner of articulation. Common places of articulation for English consonants are bilabial, closing the lips, labiodental, the upper teeth is brought against the lower lip, dental, the tongue tip and rims articulate with the upper teeth, alveolar, the tongue is placed behind the upper teeth, palatal, the tongue is placed against the palate, Click the minimal pairs below to see and hear the manner of articulation.
Dime, dime. Time, time. Wood, wood. Wool, wool. Feel, feel. Feed, feed. Take, take. Cake, cake. Meal, meal. Meat, meat. Feet, feet. Feet, feet.
In this topic, we have looked at the sound and speech production of a human being by identifying the following: the first 5 important stages of language development and the place and manner of articulation. Perhaps no other human activity has so altered the course of individual and societal development than the structure and evolution of the written word and our remarkable ability to process it, that is, to read. As reading obviously involves the visual stimuli, i.e. the written code, It is only apt that we start with a historical survey of the writing systems, from pictographs to syllabaries to the alphabet. Before the invention of writing, the oral tradition prevailed. Crucial law and knowledge were passed from the older to the younger generation through speaking. Even today, there are many spoken languages with no writing systems. However, our memory is transitory and the brain capacity is limited. Writing overcomes these problems and allows the transfer of information across space and through time. The creation and development of writing and writing systems is undoubtedly one of the greatest of human achievements. The development of writing is a recent occurrence in the history of mankind. Before a single word was written, countless billions were spoken. The written language seems to have evolved gradually in different parts of the world. It is said that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and so the precursors to writing were probably the early cave drawings made by ancient man. Writing systems can be divided into 5 systems, namely pictographic writing or pictogram, ideographic, logographic writing, rebus writing, syllabic writing, and alphabetic writing. The principle of pictographic writing is to use a picture instead of words. In this writing system, a single picture, or occasionally several pictures, is used to represent a message or short narrative. Each picture, pictogram, is a direct image of the object it represents. There is non-arbitrary relationship between the form and meaning of the symbol. However, pictographic writing is not completely international. There are cultural conventions. For example, wordless cartoons are a form of pictograms. In these cartoons, we sometimes see a light bulb in a little balloon above the person's head. This indicates to us that the person has had an idea. It is doubtful, though, if the symbol would have any meaning to an Australian bushman. Lightning bolts to indicate anger is similarly culturally bound. In ideographic, logographic writing, each symbol represents a word or morpheme, a single unit meaning. The symbol may look like the object it represents, or may be totally unrelated in form. Sentences are made up of a string of symbols. In contrast to pictographic writing, everyone familiar will read the same message, word for word, from a written string. In English, the numerals 1, 2, 3 are ideographic symbols. They each represent one whole word or concept, but they are not spelled out as we spell other words. Among the many other ideographic symbols that we use are %, and, $, at, and hash. Probably the best example of this system in use today is Chinese writing. The operating principle of ideographic writing is that each character has a meaning, unrelated to the pronunciation of the word it represents. The characters are therefore combined according to meaning and not to sound. For example, in English, the words tree, bush, and forest are unrelated in pronunciation. However, they share some small connection in meaning. Ideographs are based on units of meaning, not on unit of sound of the spoken word. Another operating principle of ideographic writing is the use of characters that have meaning but no equivalent in pronunciation. For example, the word pairs 1 and first, and 2 and second, have members that are unrelated in sound, though related in meaning. However, we write 1 and first, and 2 and second. The 2 of second do not represent the same sound as the 2 written alone, but it does represent the same meaning. So the meaning 2 is conveyed by an ideographic character whose form stays constant, even when the pronunciation changes. This writing system is used in most Western languages and many others. The principle of one sound to one symbol is followed quite closely in some languages, such as Spanish and Russian, and quite poorly in others, such as English or French. The Greeks took the West Semitic syllabary, a syllable-based system consisting of 22 syllables used by the Phoenicians, adapted it to provide a separate character for each phoneme, and created the alphabet, named for alpha and beta, the first two letters of the Greek alphabet. In an alphabetic writing system, each distinctly different sound of the spoken language is represented by a separate symbol, and each symbol represents only one sound. The written symbols are called letters or graphemes. These are put together to make an alphabet. It is difficult to find symbols for abstract concepts such as beauty and justice. Through the rebus principle, the use of character can be extended. Imagine that we use the ideographic character equal for the word plain. We could write, wheat grows best in the equal. Extending the use of the symbol by the rebus principle, we could then write, that is the equal truth. The carpenter smooths the wood with a equal. Imagine we had another character hash that meant air. We could write, fresh hash is better than smog. By the rebus principle, we could extend the use of the symbol to another word that sounds similar and write, he is hash to a great fortune. Then we could combine these symbols and write hash equal for airplane. By the rebus principle, an ideographic symbol has a phonetic or sound value as well as being used to represent homophones whose meaning is unrelated. One character would do for sun and sun, break and break, etc. We are using the rebus principle when we write for you to see. SMS, or short messaging system, is one of the most convenient methods of communication these days. Do you think that SMS incorporates syllabic writing? Unlike the pictographic and ideographic writing systems, which do not represent sounds at all, and rebus writing that only represents homophony, syllabic writing consistently links written symbols with units of sound of the spoken language. A language that uses a syllabic writing system has a group of symbols called a syllabary. There is one symbol for each different syllable possible in the language. The number of symbols is normally greater than the alphabet, but a lot fewer than in the ideographic system. The phonetic structure of a language needs to be well suited to a syllabic writing system. Japanese is a good example of a language with a simple syllable structure and a limited number of syllables. While Japanese is mostly written in borrowed Chinese ideographic characters, there is also need for a phonetically based way of writing, especially for certain words, foreign words, onomatopoeic words, and words with no Chinese equivalent. Japanese makes use of two syllabaries, katakana, one symbol for one word, and hiragana for emphatic effect. This is a typical. In this topic, we have looked at the sound and speech production of a human being by identifying the following: the first 5 important stages of language development, and the place and manner of articulation.